Good evening and welcome to the evening news for today, Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. I'm Delwar Dash. Thank you for tuning in. Now, let's take a look at some of the lead stories tonight. Millions in taxpayers' money spent on gifts for Patterson, who says it's nothing new. Demerara Harbour Bridge General Manager resigns amidst gift-buying scandal. President Ali congratulates President Biden and Vice President Harris. Quarantine driver killed in West Berbice accident, and newly constructed bus shed vandalized. Suspects arrested. And now for the news in detail. Recent revelations that former Public Infrastructure Minister David Patterson received hundreds of thousands of dollars in gifts from the Demerara Harbour Bridge Company may only be the tip of the iceberg. Documents released by his successor, Public Works Minister Juan Edgel, shows that other agencies also vied to provide the former minister with millions of dollars in gifts using taxpayers' money. In a statement released by the APNU-AFC opposition, Patterson admitted to accepting some of the gifts, but insisted that the practice is nothing new. Here's Jarrell Bryan with our lead story tonight.
According to Public Works Minister Juan Edgel, there is an extensive paper trail of ministry vouchers and receipts showing that over $2 million worth of gifts were purchased for former Minister David Patterson. These gifts came from agencies that fell under Patterson's remit as minister. It was indicated that these gifts were purchased for Patterson's birthdays.
Mr. Patterson's birthday is in May. And I have in my possession all of the documents to show from the various agencies the purchases that were made at various times in May of different years. May of 2020. Everybody will recall we had an election in March 2nd, 2020. May of 2020 is when we were in the middle of court cases and getting ready for a recount. Mr. Patterson had his birthday. And gifts were bought for Mr. Patterson from the Maritime Administration Department. $704,292. Not 7,000. 704,000.
In another case, Edgel showed documents and receipts indicating that on May the 4th, 2020, a further $387,000 was spent.
If you think that a 704,000 purchase was enough and adequate, I want to indicate to you that on the very same date, there was another purchase for $387,486. This is May 4th, 2020. So when you put 704 and 387, you know the figures. We are way past $1 million. May 4th, 2017. This time this is from the GCAA, Guyana Civil Aviation Authority. $117,200. And on the voucher from King's Jubilee World, in case Mr. Patterson wants to deny it, it is not only what was bought, but letters added, DP.
But it seemed the Maritime Administration Department, MARAD, had a special fondness for the former minister as even more gifts were purchased.
There were two purchases on May 4, 2018, which is Mr. Patterson's birthday period. And the voucher says, payment in relates to purchase of gift items for Honorable Minister Patterson's birthday, $300,000. Then we have another one, May 4th. Payment for purchases of gift items. Reference, Honorable Minister Patterson's birthday, $384,700.
The Transport and Harbour Department and the Chedijagan International Airport were also flagged for buying gifts and memorabilia for Patterson. These gifts do not include the money spent buying gold jewelry for the former minister from the Demerara Harbour Bridge Company, purchases he acknowledged receiving in a statement today. In that statement, Patterson also contended that the practice of giving memorabilia and other gifts to minister is not new. Minister Edghill, nevertheless, made it clear that a shake-up is imminent at agencies who facilitated this gift-buying spree. Jarrell Bryan, The Evening News.
Lekram Bagirat joins us now to report that General Manager of the Demerara Harbour Bridge Corporation, Ralston Adams, has tendered his resignation amid a major scandal involving taxpayers' money being spent to purchase extravagant gifts for senior government officials. Here are the details.
Minister of Public Works Juan Edghill, who has oversight for the Demerara Harbour Bridge Corporation, confirmed that the entity's general manager, Ralston Adams, has resigned. An audit into the government's asphalt plant, which falls under the purview of the Demerara Bridge Company, had found that the general manager had spent in excess of $800,000 to purchase a bracelet for himself. Minister Edghill, during a press briefing today, revealed that there are other shake-ups.
As of 11 o'clock today, I presided over a meeting at the Demerara Harbour Bridge to ensure the transfer and transition, to ensure the entity continues to function in a viable manner. Mr. Ralston Adams has been removed as General Manager of the Demerara Harbour Bridge, and Mr. Halley, who was the person responsible for the asphalt plant, has been removed from the asphalt plant and has been resent to the Demerara Harbour Bridge.
For now, he said there is an interim arrangement on how the Harbour Bridge and asphalt plant are managed until the board of directors put in place the necessary mechanisms to hire a new general manager.
These actions are necessary actions to ensure public confidence in a public corporation as it relates to public monies.
The Harbour Bridge general manager was not the only person who benefited from lavish gifts. The audit had also found that high-valued gifts were also purchased for former Public Infrastructure Minister David Patterson, who is Edghill's predecessor. Minister Edghill announced today that more changes at the corporation will be made with the intent of restoring public confidence in the entity.
The remaining managers and senior people have all been spoken to by me and the board, and more changes are to come. The intent at the end of this is that we must ensure we have an efficient, well-managed and accountable corporation.
Reporting for the Evening News, Lekram Bagirat.
The Public Accounts Committee on Wednesday heard shocking details of the former Public Infrastructure Ministry, which was headed by David Patterson, sole sourcing a contract to procure motion scales from a company in 2016 with no cabinet approval, witnesses, or even dates. Details in this report.
During the Public Accounts Committee hearing today, it was revealed that the contract was signed without any witnesses, after which cabinet approval was granted only afterwards. The contract in question was for the purchase of 3 motion scales for the sum of $72.2 million. However, only 2 of the scales were ever delivered. But even worse, cabinet approval to sole source the company was only granted after the contract was entered into. Additionally, the contract had no witnesses, date, or National Procurement and Tender Administration Board NPTAB number. It was pointed out by acting chairman of the PAC, Jermaine Figueroa, that such a contract would be null and void. He questioned how the then permanent secretary, Balraj Balram, a man with extensive experience, could have signed such a contract. As it turns out, however, Balram was unable to remember how so many lapses occurred.
Honorable Member, I honestly cannot recollect so far back 5 years ago why witnesses did not sign the contract.
But you agree that witnesses should have signed the contract that you pen your signature to as the accounting officer.
I
for the
agree.
ministry.
Honorable Member, with due regard, I cannot recall. I know I signed a contract, but I have signed several contracts in that particular year, and I cannot recall signing a contract without an NPTAM number or without a date.
And without witnesses.
Thank you. Without witnesses. I cannot recall that particular example.
Meanwhile, PAC member Jorita Fernandez was very critical of the former PS's inability to give clarity on the award of the contract.
It is unacceptable for an accounting officer during this period to present himself before this committee today and just be guided by the words in the Auditor General's report. The whole reason that we have these accounting officers present is to give details as to what went on and why these queries were raised in the first place. I know that the letter that was sent by Mr. Balram indicated that he had discussions with the current accounting officer and offered to meet with him to clarify any issue he may have had. And as we're hearing here today, the only reference being made from Mr. Balram to what is in the actual audit report.
Which is a reflection of works that he would have done.
Correct. Mr. Chair, it is unacceptable, and we cannot, as a committee, set a precedent in which accounting officers could come before us and simply say that they cannot remember what went on here and there.
For the examination of the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, former Minister David Patterson, the substantive PAC chair, recused himself. Also recusing himself was current Public Works Minister and PAC member Juan Edgil. Gerald Bryan, The Evening News.
The Attorney General's Chamber has instituted legal proceedings against BK International Incorporated and the North American Fire and General Insurance Company for breach of contract in relation to the belated and ultimately botched construction of the Yarrow Cabra Secondary School. Find out more in this report.
On December 31, 2019, the then APNU-FC coalition government entered into a contract with BK International Inc. to construct the secondary school at Yarrow Cabra on the Linden-Suzek Highway. On Tuesday, Attorney General Anil Nandlal instituted legal proceedings against the contractor and its insurance company, Nafico. According to the statement of claim, the government is seeking a total of $717.8 million in damages for the breach of contract. A breakdown of the claims indicates that the state is seeking $100 million in general damages for the breach of contract, some $82 million as liquidated damages pursuant to the provisions of the contract, another $82 million as payable by BK on the performance bonds issued by Nafico for the contract agreement, $165 million for advance payments, a $137 million order for restitution for works already paid for but not executed, $50 million for trespassing, and $100 million for breach of contract. As of November 2020, only 5% of the school was completed, which translated to the school not being completed in accordance with the contractual obligation. On November 1, 2020, Nandlal wrote BK International Inc. informing the entity that the contract was terminated with immediate effect. He noted that the company had committed a fundamental breach of the terms of the contract, and as a result, the government of Guyana exercised its right to terminate the contract. The ministry has since installed its own security after taking possession of the site with the help of the enforcement arm of the state. Reporting for the Evening News, Lekram Bagirat.
We now tell you that President Dr. Irfan Ali on Wednesday afternoon extended congratulations to the 46th President of the United States of America, Joseph R. Biden Jr., and Vice President Kamala Harris following their inauguration earlier in the day. In a Facebook post, the Guyanese leader said President Biden's call for unity and democracy are critical components of good governance. President Ali went on to say that Guyana stands together with the Biden-led administration in defense of unity, democracy, and peace. President Biden had defeated Donald Trump to clinch the White House following a cliffhanger vote count on November 2020 elections. The 78-year-old Democrat is the oldest U.S. president to take office, and after taking the oath of office, he vowed to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States in his inaugural address to the nation. He also pleaded for unity and promised to be a president for all Americans, even as he urged them to give him a chance. Wednesday's inauguration has gone down in history as Vice President Harris is the first female and first black and South Asian person to become vice president. Coming up, quarantine man killed in West Berbice accident. Suspects arrested after caught vandalizing newly constructed bus shed, and Guyana receives mobile field hospital from Qatar. You're watching the evening news. A hire car driver from the quarantine was on Wednesday killed in an accident involving another hire car on the west coast of Berbice, Region 5, Public Road. Andrew Carmichael reports that the accident occurred as both the drivers were set to be speeding whilst navigating a turn.
Dead is 29-year-old Andre Joseph of Manchester Quarantine, Region 6. The accident occurred on the number 23 Public Road, West Coast, Berbice, shortly after 4 hours 30. According to the police, motor car HB 2975 being driven by Joseph was heading east, and HC 7197 being driven by 39-year-old Collis Johnson of number 53 Village Quarantine was heading west on its way to Georgetown when the vehicles collided. At the time of the fatal crash, Johnson was taking 2 passengers to the city, all of whom were injured. The injured were identified as Ron Mitchell, 49, and Haywood Williams, 29, both of number 53 Village Quarantine. All 4 persons were taken to the Fort Wellington Hospital, where Joseph was pronounced dead on arrival. Johnson, Mitchell, and Williams were subsequently transferred to the New Amsterdam Hospital. Police say no alcohol was detected in the test done on Johnson. One of the now dead man's cousins, Junior Collins, says it was early this morning when he received a telephone call informing him about the accident.
And we get over there, myself and my wife, where we visit the mortuary, and we saw Andre's body was lying on the stretcher.
Explain to me how the body was at the mortuary. What injuries or so you might have noticed?
It seems to me that he suffers injury from his head injuries, and to his right side arm. Go to the accident scene, we saw the car, 2 cars they were collided together. Well, the car that Andrew was in was on the right side, the right driver's side. Seems like they collide from head on to side.
Meanwhile, another cousin, Tiffany Collins, said that she was able to speak with a passenger who was sitting in the front seat of one of the cars. She said the passenger claims that both cars were speeding around a turn when they collided.
The one passenger, she's crying out for he's crying out for chest pain. So what she's saying that yeah, they weren't speeding as in speeding, but they were going at a reasonable. Basically what they said is that it was raining, so the car he was coming from Georgetown and they were going to Georgetown, and the car how it took the turn, the cars went out a little, so they connected head on.
According to Collins, it took hours before Joseph was taken out of the car. She revealed to this newscast what persons who were on the scene told her.
He was pinned and he was alive up till when they were trying, because they had to cut the bar of the car, the roof. So it was pinned to the extent that it took a really long time, and being that rain came down, it was difficult to get him out. So by the time they actually got him out, he died. Well, one lady, she said her husband was first on the scene, and she said he actually was the person who tried to secure the canter and the rope. But she said she realized that at a certain point he had stopped breathing.
Joseph leaves to mourn 2 children. Police are continuing their investigations. For Evening News, Andrew Carmichael.
A newly constructed bus shed was last evening vandalized by a group of persons who have since been arrested. Our Barbies correspondent Andrew Carmichael has the details in this report.
The bus shed is located at number 19 Village East Coast, Berbice. The $500,000 structure was completed last week by the Kintyre Bolam NDC. NDC Chairman Inderlal Hitnarayan said at about 20 hours 30 on Tuesday he heard strange noises coming from the area, and he armed himself and went about 100 meters from his home, where he saw 3 men trying to dismantle the new structure.
When I reached the shed, the fellows were wrenching with crowbar. All 3 fellows they had crowbar. So the one on the roadside saw me and he walked towards me. So I just moved back and keep a distance. So I asked him, "Mr. Man, what are you doing here?" He said, "Hanuman sent them for block the shed." Mr. Man, you make mistake. This shed is on the public road and the government thing. Look Hanuman building there, why you not go over there and go block it? Right? They said, no, he's telling me for the shed. And I just left them. I said, you can't block the thing. Well, they continued to break. I walked away and come and got some help here with our people. Went back. And because the crowd was big, they decided to run away.
The group of vandals tried to escape. However, the police arrived just in time to capture all of them.
I saw them in the Land Rover with a little boy who was there with me to help out to chase them. So I asked the police, "But where are you taking this boy?" He said he'll get a cut that time to dress him at the hospital.
Franklin Baker said his nephew is one of those who were arrested. According to Baker, he received information last night stating that a bus shed was being destroyed.
The police have now to pick up the 3 of them. And he pick up the 3 of them along with the men who running, the people them who come to break the shed. They pick up one of them boys them in the village and carry them down to the station. And these boys mentioned that one of the Hanuman from Georgetown pay somebody in Amsterdam to pick them up and to come and break down the shed at number 19, which them don't have no authority to break the shed. The shed is on the government public road. This is public road. This is what the government built for the resident and school children. When the police ask them how much the Hanuman pay you all to break the shed, they said they don't collect money yet.
The perpetrators are said to be from Angais Avenue, New Amsterdam. They remain in custody as police continue to investigate. The bus shed was constructed with the NDC's 2020 subvention. The NDC had applied to the local government ministry in 2019 for the funds and permission to build it.
If something went wrong with y'all, what would have become? Your parents would have never known what happened to y'all. I left till a cow dam and come till a 19 come broke down shed for a small change of money. If I even had a dead now, what would have happened? Them start beg now, say that if they can nail back. Me say nail back, I don't rip the people them shed, I rip the government shed. Why you gonna nail back? You done root the shed already. The whole shed got to dismantle and repair back.
For the evening news, Andrew Carmichael.
Minister of Housing and Water, the Honorable Colin Crowell, on Monday announced that this year $100 million would be spent on roadworks in several communities along the east bank of Demerara. Lawanda McAllister tells us more.
Herstellan Farm and Covent Garden are among those villages on the east bank of Demerara which stand to benefit from the $100 million budgeted for road upgrades. Minister of Housing and Water Colin Crowell made the announcement whilst conducting a community outreach in the Little Diamond Herstellan Neighborhood Democratic Council. He was accompanied by CEO of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Mr. Sherwin Graves, and a team of technical officers. During his address at the outreach, the minister said the project will come under the ministry's Community Road Repair and Enhancement Program in the 2021 national budget. Residents were heard raising concerns about dilapidated roads and the need for streetlights in the communities. Having heard the complaints of the residents, Minister Crowell used the opportunity to highlight some of the projects that will be executed in the new and existing communities along the East Bank corridor under the ministry's 2021 work program. He explained that CHNPA would be installing solar lights in Farm, Covent Garden, and Providence by the end of February. The CHNPA is also reviewing several proposals to establish markets in Farm and other neighboring communities. While a location has been proposed by the NDC, the minister will be engaging the Guyana Sugar Corporation on the availability of the area identified. Meanwhile, the Guyana Livestock Development Authority addressed the issue of animals being left to graze in communities. GLDA's Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Dwight Waldron, convened a separate meeting with cattle farmers who indicated their willingness to relocate their cattle from residential areas once they have access to lands. Reporting for the Evening News, I am Lawanda McAllister.
We now tell you that Guyana on Tuesday evening received a mobile field hospital along with added amenities such as beds, respirators, and other equipment from the government of Qatar to aid in the fight against the novel coronavirus. Details in this report.
The equipment for the field hospital arrived on a Qatar Imari Air Force Boeing C-17 Globemaster jet at the Chedijagan International Airport and was received by Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony and other officials. The mobile facility came with 60 beds, 60 mattresses, 12 air conditioners, 60 pillows, 60 blankets, 8 carpets, 1 generator, 20 respirators, 20,000 types of small and large medical equipment, and 1 diesel tank. Speaking during his COVID-19 update on Wednesday, Minister Anthony said this new hospital and the added equipment will boost the country's capacity to manage and treat critically ill COVID-19 patients.
We would be able to manage patients, both critical and non-critical patients. 20 of the 60 beds would be like ICU beds. It would have monitors, it would have ventilators so that we'll be able to manage patients who have a more severe or critical form of COVID. So with this donation alone, it would really boost our capacity to manage severely ill and critically ill patients.
Guyana's current capacity at the Ocean View Hospital, which houses the COVID-19 intensive care unit, is approximately 25 beds. The mobile field hospital will be set up by local technical personnel in the compound of the Ocean View facility to complement services there.
Initially, we were thinking about the West Demerara Hospital because we went there, we identified the space and so forth. But upon closer analysis of the amount of personnel that we have there to run the facility, it would be a challenge, both in terms of nursing personnel and in terms of doctors. So what we have decided, because we already have a lot of capacity in terms of personnel at Ocean View, that we think it might be more appropriate for us to set it up in the compound of the Ocean View facility, and it would complement what we are doing at Ocean View.
The donation of the field hospital is part of a commitment made by the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, to President Irfan Ali during a telephone conversation following his inauguration back in August 2020. In a post on his Facebook page, President Ali said, quote, "I thank the Emir and people of Qatar for their love and support. Weeks after my inauguration, the Emir and I spoke and he promised to fly in a field hospital and accessories. Today he delivered on that promise. Soon we will be establishing our embassy in Qatar and together we will accomplish lots more for the people of our two countries." End quote. Reporting for the Evening News, Vanu Manakchand.
The Ministry of Health has reported 65 new COVID-19 cases in Guyana over the last 24 hours. According to the ministry's updated COVID-19 dashboard, the total number of confirmed cases in the country is now 7,015. Of these, however, only 579 cases are currently active. This includes 7 patients in the COVID-19 intensive care unit and the other 572 persons in isolation. In addition, there are also 22 persons in institutional quarantine. While the COVID-19 death toll remains at 170, the number of persons who have recovered from this life-threatening disease to date has gone up to 6,266. And now for a look at the bridge reports.